Good evening and welcome to Scouting Week. I am Scouter Mike, a proud member of Troop 365 Geezer Patrol. Tonight we're going to cover three subjects: fuel safety, cooking safety and cooking for ease cleanup, and finally, bicycle safety, concentrating on maintaining a safe bike. We have a special guest who will talk about these subjects but also give us a scientific perspective on safety. Please let me now welcome our special guest sent up from council, Professor Got the Answer. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you, Scouter Mike. It's a privilege and a pleasure for me to be here to help the Boy Scouts learn a little bit about safety.
Well, great. Well, Professor, I'd like to point out in real life, when you are not lecturing youth groups, you work in the aerospace industry as an engineer. You have studied in the United States and Canada and have a PhD in physics and engineering.
Well, my career can be quite stressful and also dangerous, so I really enjoy the chance to come to these get-togethers with the Boy Scouts in a peaceful and calm environment and teach young Scouters aspects of safety that they'll stand with them for the rest of their lives.
Oh, great. Well, you know, by the way, I really like the tie that you have on.
Oh, thank you for noticing. This was given to me as a gift after I presented the safety course to one of the other Boy Scout troops, and I've cherished this memento, and I wouldn't give this away for the world.
Oh, great. So, Professor, before I let you move on to your first topic, I want to introduce you to a Scout assistant from the Snail Patrol, a tenderfoot, Blinky Martin.
Hello, Professor.
Oh,
Blinky.
greetings, Blinky.
I've been scouting for a long time, and I'm going to be a great assistant to you, and I've got a lot of helpful ideas.
And are you still, a tenderfoot?
I've been a tenderfoot for 12 years. I'm the most experienced tenderfoot in the troop. And next week I have my border review for second class.
Well, I look forward to giving this safety demonstration with you.
Thank you,
Blinky.
Professor. I'm excited.
All right, Scouts, let's learn a little bit about fuel safety. I'm going to teach you about the different types of fuels that can be used for camping, sources of fuel for the stoves that we'll be using, and I'm going to tell you how to handle them safely and correctly. It should be clear that all fuels are flammable, and if they're flammable, they can catch on fire if you don't handle them correctly in ways that can cause serious injury. They can burn or they can cause explosions. So listen up and we'll get set down so that we can handle this stuff correctly. Now, the first fuel I wanted to talk to you about is Coleman fuel. It's a white gas fuel. Blinky, can you show them the Coleman fuel? This is Coleman fuel, white gas fuel, like unleaded gas in fact, and it's in a backpacking container made by MRS. What you might notice about this container is it has a special locking cap so that it can't undo while it's in your backpack. The reason is you don't want this to spill out. You don't want the vapors to come off of it. You want to make sure it's sealed so that when you turn it upside down, there's no liquid leaking out, because again, very flammable. What we do is, Linky, can you pass me the big container of Coleman camp fluid fuel? Thank you. This is the large container, and of course, more fuel, more potential to burn, greater hazard, so need to be careful. It shows you right here on the side, flammable liquid. When we're handling this, we want to make sure we're near no sources of flame or ignition, fires, stoves, anything like that. People smoking, keep it well away from those sources of ignition. And be careful about how you dispense the fuel. If you spill some fuel, you're going to want to clean it off with water or some other elements. Don't leave fuel puddled on a table or even on the ground. And as you're transferring it, can you hand us show the boys the funnel? Yeah, we're going to make sure we do it neat and tidy. We're going to take this funnel and put it inside the opening of this container, and we'll carefully dispense the fuel from this larger container into this container, and we'll make sure when we're finished that all of the caps have been properly returned to their sealed position and that no fuel can leak out. Okay, well, there's another type of fuel that we're commonly going to use when we're out on Boy Scout camping trips, and that's called propane. Binky, can you show the boys the propane container? It's quite a bit heavier, and if you shake it, you'll feel that it feels like it's a liquid, but it's under tremendous pressure. Which is why it's in this pressure vessel. The pressure vessel is keeping it from expanding into a gas. What we do is we take and we connect this up to our stove using the appropriate types of connectors. You don't want to use a broken connector. You don't want to use the wrong connector. You want to make sure the connector is clean and has no dirt, debris in it. And in fact, if you do this correctly, you should be able to turn this on gently and seal it with your hand. You don't need any kind of a pipe wrench or any kind of a monkey wrench to tighten it up really tight, and that should be fine. And then you turn this final knob to have the gas flow through the system. And what you can do before you open it up is you can check to see if there's any leaks. And in this case, we can use a bubble solution, a solution of water and soap
Professor, wait a
that
minute,
we press
wait a minute.
over.
We forgot
What's
the
that,
fire
Blinky?
extinguisher.
Oh, you forgot the fire
We
extinguisher.
forgot the fire extinguisher.
Okay, let me show the boys the fire extinguisher. That's an excellent point. If you should all become familiar with the fire extinguisher, you should know where it is and you should know how to use it. There's a little acronym that helps you called PASS, point, aim, shoot, and sweep. In this case, you can look down at the bottom of the fire extinguisher and see what type of fires it's appropriate for. You should become familiar with how to operate it, pulling on the white ring to release the stop on the trigger, and this is trigger controlled. You would use this to point, aim, shoot, and sweep at the source of the blaze. So that's the fire extinguisher. And let me continue. I was describing how we can show whether or not we've made a good seal in these propane tanks. We can use a bubble
Wait
solution.
a minute, Professor. I got a better idea. Let's use fire! Professor, I found the leak. And here's your tie.
Oh, thank you, Blinky. All right, let's go to our next segment where we're going to talk about cooking. We're going to show you how to set up the stove, how to set the flame for the appropriate temperatures for the various foods, and probably most importantly, we're going to show you some tips on how to keep the cleanup down so you don't have a lot of mess at the end of your meal. And I'm told that Blinky, my assistant over here, has a special new technique that I don't know that's really going to make cleanup very quick.
Yes, Professor. I have the best method ever. It's just going to blow you away on how easy it is.
Well, I look forward to seeing that. Yeah. So, you remember we have attached the gas now, and in the front of the grill or the stove, there's some knobs that control the amount of fuel that is going to be used to set the flame. Now, say we have two different types of food items. We have an item that will fit in a pail like this. It's water, it's liquid-based, it's soap, a soup possibly. That can be set on high. There's no problem boiling water on high to get it to boil and then turning it down. But if you're frying something, you don't want to set the stove on the highest flame. That'll make the pan too hot, and when things go inside the pan, they'll stick and leave an awful mess for you to clean up. Another thing you can do is you can use Pam, or in this case Baker's Joy, to spray the inside of the pan and wipe it around to make sure all the sides have a little bit of butter or oil on the edges of the pan, and then heat the pan up, get the pan warm but not smoking hot, and then add the food items such as a grilled cheese sandwich. And I'll show you, this is going to make a wonderful grilled cheese sandwich. Now let's see what Blinky's up to. Hi, Blinky.
Hi, Professor. I've got this great can of baked beans I'm
Oh, I
making.
love baked beans.
And you see, I've kept it in the can, and it's just going to be,
You're heating it in the can?
yeah, it's going to be, the cleanup is going to be like a snap.
Really?
Yeah, see?
Does it have any holes in it? I don't see any holes for it to expand.
No, there's no
If
holes.
there's no holes, it could explode. Blinky, I think your beans are done. Our last segment is going to be on bike safety. And we're not going to be riding the bikes, so I shouldn't have to sustain any injuries, right, Blinky? This should be very safe.
Professor.
Right, all right. So let's talk about how you set up a bike to make sure it's safe to go riding. First of all, let's talk about brakes. Now, I'm sure you boys know these two front handles are used to brake the bike, to stop it in motion. But what you need to make sure you have is enough rubber pad or friction contact between the braking element and the tire. If you can pull a handle like I can in this brake all the way back, you need to adjust them so you have more leverage and can get more braking power. And you can do that by adjusting these nuts so that you actually pull out the slack in the line, and that gives you more leverage to be able to brake more effectively. So you want to check these braking pads. You want to check how your handles are set. You may want to come around and check your seat. Make sure your seat is at the right height and that it's sturdy and solid and doesn't wiggle and move. You want to check your chain is nicely oiled and there's no slop and it's running effectively over the gears. And then the tires themselves, not only should the tires have a certain amount of wear, in this case, one easy way to check to see that your tires have enough tread is to take a penny and to put it in the groove, and if the tire tread comes up to the head, the top of the head of Abraham Lincoln, well then you're all set. That's a measure of the tread depth, and you need a certain amount of tread depth to make sure the tire is safe. You also want to make sure you have enough tire pressure. All these tires have a label on them that says how much pressure is required to inflate that tire, and you use a tire inflation or a tire gauge. You connect it up to your tire and you read how much pressure you have to make sure your tires are inflated correctly. So if we wanted to inflate the tires, because tires actually often lose air, especially here in Arizona where we go through a lot of different climatic zones and it's very hot, we can go and we can fill them with a hand pump. Thank you, Blinky. Yeah. Or an electric pump. Or Blinky told me earlier today that he had a special way of being able to fill the tire.
Professor, I do.
Let's go.
Let me show you how
All
this
right.
is so cool.
What have we got here,
I have
Blinky?
to just hook up the tire right
So
here.
we need to make
and
sure
I
that it
turn
doesn't
over the
overinflate.
tank, and it.
What is that?
It's nitrogen.
Blinky,
Let me
this is
show
going to
you.
explode!
Professor, Professor, can you hear me? Professor. Oh, I see the
can't
problem.
hear you,
I see the
Blinky.
problem. There's a valve stem in your ear.
Oh.
Oh, I gotcha. Is that better?
Blinky, leave me alone.
Thanks, Professor. That was some very informative subjects. And now let's talk about next week's program. And here is Safe Scouting Sheila to talk about our subject of rock climbing and rappelling.
Well, yes, Mike, you know I'm an amateur rock climber, and we are going to be going out to the white tanks and going to do some climbing, some rappelling. The council is going to actually send us an expert. And, oh, here he is. Climb on safely, Chris.
Yes, thank you, Sheila. We're going to be doing some climbing and being safe while doing it. So Sheila will be climbing up the mountain, and I will be instructing and belaying her from above.
And, Mike, I understand that the professor has also done some rappelling and climbing.
I have done a little rappelling in my day.
So Sheila will be climbing up while the professor climbs down. By the way, Professor, you did a lecture with my kids' class one day on the planets and gravity and the whole solar system. They were so excited. For weeks, they wanted to be astronauts and physicists. I'm so pleased to meet you.
Oh, I'm glad I had an impact on your children. It's something that brings comfort to me. Now, you said that I was going to be climbing as well. Did council tell you anything about who they might be sending to be my belayer?
Oh, I think so.
Oh, who would that be?
I can answer that. It's who else but Blinky Martin.
Blinky Martin?
Or a team, Professor.
Oh, all right. Let me just check and make sure I have the week available. I'll have to check with my wife and my insurance as well. Button here. Then there's a fully on position, fully to the counterclockwise, and a medium position and a low position. Now for food items that are based...
The dog's pooping behind you.
That's an outtake. That's a good one.
That's